Today we're going to be looking at what an allele is, just another name for a gene, as well as how we classify the types of alleles have in them. For example, if they have two dominant alleles, two recessive alleles, or a combination of the two. We're first going to be looking at what an allele is and defining the allele. From there, then we can start beginning to talk about what heterozygous and homozygous mean. Let's take a look. Types of genes in organisms. What are alleles? Alleles are another name for specific genes. For example, instead of saying, oh, she has genes for brown eyes, we will now say, she has the alleles for brown eyes. Within the chromosomes, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of alleles. And alleles are specific bands within the chromosomes that represent a specific trait. These alleles are made up of DNA and give you the visible traits or the invisible traits that we see. Remember, your parents give you your traits. So that means you have a combination of mom and dad within you, but you still carry genes from both parents. We can tell the difference of different alleles by using single letters. Let's say, for example, here I have a turtle shell that's brown. I could use any letter to indicate it, but the choice I'm going to choose is big G. Here I have a green turtle shell. I still need to indicate that it's a turtle shell allele, so I'll use a G, but I need to indicate that it's different. In our case, I'll use little g. What determines if it's capital or lowercase is determined on if it's dominant or recessive. For example, the eye color allele, I could use E. The letter doesn't matter. Skin color, I could use D. How to tell dominant and recessive alleles. Remember, we can use the letters to distinguish alleles. We can use capital letter for the dominant trait and lowercase for the recessive. For example, dominant trait, big A, and the recessive trait, little a. If we use these rabbits as an example, let's say that brown fur is dominant, we could give them big F for being a dominant brown furred rabbit. We could then say that a white rabbit has little f. What can be the combination of alleles? There are three combinations of alleles an individual can have. The three combinations you can have are two dominant alleles, a dominant and a recessive allele, and a recessive allele and a recessive allele. Now that we know what an allele is, we can begin to look at how to name the different combinations of dominant and recessive alleles. Remember, you get two alleles, one from your mom and one from your dad. These combinations will determine that the traits you have, as well as what type of name to give the traits. For this examples and as we go through, we're going to stick with the rabbits because they're easy. We're going to have the brown furred rabbit be represented by a big B, so it is a dominant allele. We're going to have the white fur rabbit be represented by a little b and have it be the recessive allele. Let's take a look. Homozygous dominant. Two dominant alleles. In this example, big A, big A. A homozygous dominant individual will have two dominant alleles. In the case of our rabbits, they'll have a big B, and show the dominant trait. Homozygous recessive. Two recessive alleles, little a. Individuals have homozygous recessive traits have two recessive alleles. In our case here, this white rabbit would have a little b, and show the recessive trait. Heterozygous, one dominant allele and one recessive allele, big A, little a, will show the dominant trait. Heterozygous individuals have a dominant allele and a recessive allele. However, because they have that dominant allele, they will show the dominant trait, in this case, brown fur. From here, we can begin to predict the combinations that can happen based upon the individual's heterozygous or homozygosity. However, looking at all traits becomes incredibly difficult as the sheer number of chromosomes within somebody and the sheer number of traits that goes with it.